Thanks so much to everyone for your patience. We really appreciate it. Tons of hype in the chat. We've been working on this for so long, and I appreciate all the hard work of Nisha and Brendan and Gerard, and I am so excited to talk to Darren Korb. But first, I want to go over a little bit of our history, or kind of, we're going to go a little behind the scenes. But first, we're going to talk about Supergiant Games, which is where Darren is composer and voice actor. We're going to talk about all of those things. But founded in San Jose in 2009 and now stationed in San Francisco, Supergiant Games has developed notable hits over the past 12 years, like Bastion and Transistor and Pyre. And this year, they have a new game that is innovative and frankly addictive. And it's really taken the gaming world by storm. So I have been playing this game so much over the past few weeks. I know that there are a lot of other people who have been playing and are probably just as addicted as I am to Hades, and trying their best to level boons to get to the next boss. Okay, my thumbs have been achy, basically, is what I'm trying to say, because I've been playing this game so much. And if you have not played Hades, the premise is very simple. You're the son of Hades, the lord of the underworld, and all you have to do is fight your way out of the depths of hell. This game is so immersive in storytelling, in art, in voice acting, and in music that it has topped dozens of critics and fans lists for the 2020 Game of the Year. It's won a ton of accolades, including taking home top titles at the BAFTA and DICE Awards. The entire Supergiant catalog is known for their use of music as an important vessel in storytelling. And we are joined tonight by the man that makes all of that happen. So, with me is the incredible resident composer and sound designer of Hades and Supergiant Games, Darren Korb. So let's get some hype in the chat. And thank you, Darren, again for your patience while we worked out some stuff. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we're going to have a great conversation.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for having me.
I swear this.
All right. So let's get started. First of all, Darren, what made you realize that music was your passion?
You know, I started singing when I was a really little kid. I started doing musical theater, and I have older brothers that were doing it, so I was sort of wanted to do what they were doing, and so I got into that as a little kid. And then I picked up guitar when I was, I think I'd say 11 years old, and I started writing songs and playing in bands and got into making rock music and doing all that stuff. And then in high school, I picked up multi-track recording, and I just sort of became obsessed with that, and never really looked back from that point on. That sort of overtook all my other interests as the main thing I knew I wanted to be involved in. So yeah, I'd say from about high school forward, I knew I wanted to do something with music and recorded music specifically.
Great, thanks. So your love of making music overlapped with a professional opportunity when your childhood friend Amir Rao brought you on to Supergiant's first game, Bastion. Can you tell us a little bit about striking out on your own to create a game soundtrack? Is it true that you recorded this soundtrack in your closet?
It is in fact true. There's a portion of it that was recorded. I recorded that at two different Brooklyn apartments. And the first one, I didn't even have a closet. It was just, I had a loft bed and I put a blanket over the side. So it was mostly in a closet, and some of it was not even a closet. But yeah, it was all recorded with just a handful of mics and gear that I had in my apartment in Brooklyn. And part of my constraint for myself, because it was a project that there wasn't really a budget for me to hire anybody or do anything like that, and I didn't really know even how to go about writing for other musicians, really, because I'd never done that so much. So I just, part of the constraint was it had to be something I could make myself in my bedroom and do it in a way that was convincing and didn't sound like a limitation. it was, whatever the result of that was, I wanted it to feel like an aesthetic choice instead of something that I wasn't. I wanted strings, but I couldn't get them, so I used these sort of fake strings, and I just try to avoid that stuff as much as possible.
Switching gears just a little bit, what were some of your favorite video games growing up? And are there any certain genres that you really love to play?
Gosh, yeah, that's a toughie. There's a lot. I mean, Fallout 2 is perhaps one of my favorite games of all time. I love that game. It was a type of game that it was so freeing to play that game after playing a bunch of other kinds of RPGs. It was a game that really truly wanted you to make any kind of character and see what happens and do all sorts of different things. So that was a real blast for me. I'd say growing up, I really enjoyed just like kind of brawler beat 'em up games that I could play with my friends, Streets of Rage and that kind of thing. But in 2005, I discovered Guitar Hero, and 2007, I think Rock Band came out, and that's like my favorite franchise is the Rock Band franchise. I've played more hours of that for sure than any other franchise.
Rock Band's amazing, and I remember going to college parties and people would have Rock Band set up, and that was so exciting for me.
Yeah,
that
it's
there
wonderful,
would just
yeah.
be this super accessible and fun and challenging game, like in a party setting. I'm just a big fan of party games.
It's like karaoke plus, it's like really, really, really extreme karaoke. I love it.
How do you best get inspired to compose, and what was the process like for Hades? It seems like you're really heavily influenced by certain styles when you're making a game. So, for example, you mentioned in past interviews that Journey was really present in your brain when you were making Transistor. What were you listening to when you were writing music for Hades?
Yeah, I mean, I listened to a lot of different things. I knew that I wanted it to have a Mediterranean vibe, and part of that was sort of the instruments that I wanted to select some instruments that would evoke that without doing too much stylistic stuff. And so I do, I try to allow the palette to do a lot of that work. And as far as music that influenced me, a bunch of different rock and kind of metal and progressive rock stuff. Everything from like Soundgarden and Alice in Chains to like Rush and Megadeth and Led Zeppelin and all everything in between. Tons of different stuff.
It's so interesting because when I was trying to do a little bit of research about this and I was Googling like Hades music, I like that it was labeled Mediterranean prog rock, and I'd never heard that before, and that was just really amusing to me. So way to go to basically have your own music genre.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try to do that at the outset of just about every project. It just helps me figure out where the sound is going to live and what kind of music it's going to be. So I try to set up a genre for myself at the beginning of each project. For Bastion, it was acoustic frontier trip hop, and for Hades, the full thing is Mediterranean prog rock Halloween music is my little triptych there.
Halloween music. Halloween's my favorite holiday.
Yeah,
Hype
it's
for
the best.
Halloween in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay, so another question. The main character of Hades, Zagreus, was actually not the first choice as the protagonist in the game. Mm-hmm. The first character considered was Theseus, who, spoiler alert, ends up becoming a boss instead. So in a lot of Greek mythology books, Zagreus is like a footnote. So who had the idea to flesh him out into a fully realized character?
That would be Greg Kasavin, our writer and creative director. At first, when we started working on the project, we were it was going to be focused more on the Theseus and the Minotaur myth. It was going to take place in a labyrinth, and that was the sort of conceit for the changing levels and stuff. And it just tonally, like with what we were getting, it was interesting, but it just wasn't really, it didn't have the thing we were looking for. So I think it was like maybe 3 months or 2-3 months into working on that, we had a little prototype, and the gameplay seemed cool, but just the fiction and vibe wasn't really coming together for us. So we went away for winter break and came back, and Greg Greg was like, okay, what if it were about Zagreus, the son of Hades, and it was like reverse Diablo? You're trying to escape hell. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm in. Let's do that. Everyone was just like, yep. and I think part of the reason that it was so exciting to have a character where there isn't a lot of information about this character is that we get to sort of fill in the blanks ourselves, and Greg can create an interesting character where there isn't a lot to go on. So it gave us a lot of freedom, I think, to play with Zagreus and what he wants and what his goals are and what his story is and everything.
So as I was, again, lots of Googling for this interview, I cannot believe that I didn't know this from the beginning, that you are also the voice of Zagreus and Skelly. So it's
Yes.
been your voice in my ear for the past few weeks, which was frankly shocking at first.
Yeah.
How did you become the voice of Zagreus and Skelly? Have you done a lot of voice acting before Hades? And how do you prep for voice acting?
I did a couple of voices on Pyre, but it was in a made up language, so it's not really the same thing. But yeah, I had not done much voice acting. I grew up acting as a kid and through high school and stuff, but I haven't really acted since high school. So it was cool to be able to do that again. I mean, the way I wound up doing Zag and Skelly is just kind of by default or happenstance, I suppose. I recorded some scratch VO, which is sort of stuff you intend to replace later when you find when you cast the real actor. And what happened was, I put my Zagreus scratch and my Skelly scratch in the game, and we just ended up liking, the whole team kind of ended up liking what was in there more than any of the auditions we got. And so I just wound up doing them.
Your Zagreus accent is really good, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I had a lot of practice at it over the course of the 3.5 years or whatever I was doing it.
Is it weird to go back and listen to you have conversations with yourself? It's very Rick and Morty.
It's funny because there's so much content in the game that, like, so many lines that any individual exchange of lines, I sort of vaguely remember doing it, but it's like I have a disassociation with it. So it's like two other people talking to each other. It's not so weird.
Did you come up with Boyo?
Boyo, no. Greg, the Boyo is a Greg thing. The Skelly voice is sort of based on this voice that I would just do with my friends. And which was kind of based on a guy that we met one time, and who ran a comic book store near where my friends went to school, and that version was like lower energy. It's kind of the shopkeeper in Pyre is actually based on that same kind of voice as well. And it's sort of like this kind of thing. It's a little sadder than Skelly, but Skelly, it's like he needed to talk faster and be like hype you up to beat him up. So you add like kind of a little Joe Pesci or something to that, and it becomes like, "Hey, Boyo, come here and hit me,"
Oh my gosh, hype in the chat for Skelly, for the Skelly voice. Also, if you decide you want to do Zagreus, I don't think anybody would be mad about that.
Yeah, I need something to say though. I can't just, I don't feel comfortable. I got to read Zagreus.
I'll hopefully ask really good questions where you can just slide some Zagreus.
Okay.
Actually, this kind of fits into the next question. So, although you answered it a little bit, can you talk a bit about the process of recording multiple characters while at the same time being the sound designer and composer? Like, that's a lot of hats.
Yeah, it is a lot of hats. Normally on a larger team, the audio director would oversee people doing all those different things and coordinating and maybe hiring contractors and stuff. On our team, I'm essentially the audio team, and so I direct, myself making the sound effects and composing the music and directing the voiceover and stuff. And I work really closely with Greg Kasabin on implementing that. Like, he does most of the implementation for the VO, and we'll sort of sometimes implement sound effects together, and I have help from engineers and stuff implementing the music. But yeah, for the most part, I would say I do a lot of it on my own. So yeah, I keep busy for sure. As far as doing the voice acting goes, I don't know that it was any more of a time commitment than if we had some other actor do it, just because I have to be at the session either way, because I would be directing it, another actor doing it, or I'm doing it myself and nobody else is there. So it's almost a little bit of a time savings for someone else if it's just me doing it. So yeah, I mean, it was a ton of fun, and the loop from me saying it, deciding it should be a different way, and giving myself direction is much faster than that loop for another actor. Though, so, I would say maybe it took me more takes sometimes than it would take a professional to get it just how I wanted it.
But you know exactly what you want.
Yeah, I do have that benefit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an important part of the job. Surely.
Yeah.
Okay, so what exactly made composing for Hades different than other games that you've worked on? And how is developing a video game during quarantine, during a global pandemic?
Yeah, those are, I'll start with the first part. I mean, Hades, in a couple of ways, it's different for me. The first way being, it is probably the closest to music it's just fun for me to play, and I would just play, I would just want to make that kind of music anyway, just because it rocks and I enjoy that, and it's sort of closer to my heart in that regard, maybe, than some of the other music I've made for the games. I mean, I enjoy all of it for sure, but it's, I think, so that's one thing that's a little different for me. And also the other major consideration for me on Hades was I had to write and implement the music in such a way that it wouldn't get stale for players over the course of upwards of 200 hours of playing this game, just because you can play it over and over and over and continue playing it, I should say, for a really long time, and you'll hear the same piece of music over and over. So I wanted to write more music, and I wanted the music to play back in a way that would make it sort of at least take longer to get repetitive for you. So we implemented it as multiple dynamic stems that can turn on and off sort of in a semi-randomized way as you advance through the run. And so there's like a guitar stem, a bass stem, and a drum stem, for example, that can play in different combinations as you advance through the underworld. And then the pieces themselves will advance to different sections that will loop. So it'll help your run feel scored, hopefully, and add variety to the music playback. So you're never hearing the same piece in exactly the same way twice, because it has this randomized stem presentation. And then when you get to the boss, the rockin' part always kicks in the same, and that should feel exciting and kind of like know you're at the boss music,
Oh, absolutely. And when I first started playing, I think one of my favorite parts was just like the bass. The bass part, like just the bass was just amazing. If you have not played Hades, please consider playing Hades, by the way. Chat. Okay, so that's kind of some of my favorite music in Hades, but are there favorite songs of yours specifically from the Hades soundtrack? And what makes them so special to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I really enjoyed making a lot of, the whole soundtrack and a lot of the different pieces for different reasons. I really had a ton of fun making God of the Dead, just because it's such a big, intense piece of music I just wanted to kind of see how hard I could go and how intense I could make this piece. And then when we had the idea to do the Unseen Ones for the sort of even more extreme version of that fight, I was like, well, how can I turn this up to 11? I don't know that I'm capable of this. Was my 11, what do I do here? And so I thought, well, if I get some like real guitar wizards to just kill it for 4 minutes on this tune, I can't do that, but I know there are people who can. So I reached out to a couple of incredible guitar players, and they just nailed that. So that was a ton of fun, because I didn't really have to do much for that one, because they just nailed it so effortlessly from my perspective. And then I would say In the Blood was a real delight to record because I recorded that, the orchestral portion of that, and the vocals at Abbey Road in London. And it was one of the coolest things I've ever done in my life. We were also there recording this Songs of Supergiant album, which was the orchestral arrangements of all the pieces of music from all the games. And yeah, it was just such a delight to write a song and have it recorded for the first time at Abbey Road by these incredible musicians, and on the coast as well. Yeah, I mean, it was just that was just kind of really, really surreal for me and fantastic.
I don't know about you, but was walking into Abbey Road Studios like another world? Did you just want to take pictures of everything and just like touch everything?
Yeah, I wanted to take it all in. I'm less of a picture person, but I was just like just kind of staring around. I mean, there are plenty of pictures from inside the studio, but yeah, it's the room where the Beatles just recorded all their albums, and yeah, it's like, well, yeah, this is the staircase from the picture of the Beatles on the staircase, and it's like, oh, this is that room.
Across the street.
Yeah, exactly. No, we got that picture as well, of course. Yeah.
You have to. Okay, so we're gonna switch gears for just a minute. Well, for just a little bit. But I do want to say first off to all of our donors and everybody in the chat and watching, thank you so much for all of your support, for not only bearing with us with our tech issues, but also by making your gift in support of the Hope Crisis Fund. And because we've been doing so well tonight, and because Darren is super generous, I'm hoping that you'd still be willing to play some stuff for us.
Sure, yeah. I'll play a tune for you. I happen to have this guitar right here.
How convenient.
What do you know? Oh, look at that. Who put that there? Who did that?
What would you like to play for us?
I was thinking I'd play Lament of Orpheus from Hades, which is a tune that we recorded. Originally, I recorded it, at the office and here at my house. And you know what? I realized I never answered the second part about recording in a pandemic or doing the game in a pandemic.
Oh, I got so distracted by Abbey Road.
Should I answer that?
I'd love to know.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'd say we were about 2/3 or 3/4 of the way done with Hades when the pandemic happened, maybe 3/4. And we were sort of in the groove of heads down, just working and making stuff at that point and finishing and polishing. And so because we were all kind of set up anyway to work from home one day a week, it wasn't so bad. The transition anyway was like kind of okay. We all had setups at home we could use, even if they weren't, perfect. And yeah, I brought some gear home. Like, I got back the very last thing I did before the pandemic, the shit lockdown happened, was I played a concert for 3,000 people at PAX East and then came home. And then that Friday, everything was locked. I was like, okay, you're all going home, not coming to the office anymore. So it was a pretty insane whiplashy situation for me because that was the last time I saw a bunch of people at once. But yeah, so as far as the actual work goes, the biggest challenge, I think, was figuring out how to record all the actors that we had been recording in the studio previously. So we ended up just kind of sending everybody mics and USB mics, and just kind of like, well, I'll make it sound better in post and do what I can to match the quality of this. And did my best there. But we had like thousands of lines left to record. I actually had to get a vocal booth in my house so I could finish recording for Zagreus because he had so many lines left that I couldn't do them all in the middle of the night when my family was asleep. So, so yeah, there were some adjustments that had to be made, but overall I was really proud of the team, how we were able to cross the finish line somehow, in even with everything that was going on. And in a lot of ways, I think it actually really helped me cope with the pandemic, because for the first half of of that year or whatever, we were staying at home. I was just like, the first 6 months, I was too busy to worry about the pandemic, so I could just kind of sink into the work and keep my head in that space. So in a lot of ways,
isn't that crazy to say that? Like you're like the first 6 months of
the
pandemic.
first 6 months, I know.
Remember that.
Yeah.
I think we're talking probably about the same Friday, and it was announced that like things were closing down. And I remember looking at Nisha and being like, putting on my jacket and thinking, oh, we'll be back in a few weeks. Like, I'll see you in a few weeks. I was like, this will be a month tops. I said to her.
Yeah.
And now here we are.
I know. It's crazy. It's crazy. I got my second shot today. I still got my Band-Aid on. So,
yes. So, congratulations.
Thank you. So soon.
The last time we talked, I was getting my second shot. And it just feels amazing. So congratulations to you. And congratulations to everyone in chat who's gotten vaccinated.
Yes.
Great
job. Got to do it.
All right. Are we ready for some music?
Sure. Yeah. I think I'm going to take these headphones off just turn off my target. So I won't be able to hear you for a minute, but
I'm not
while I play this song. Okay. Okay. Make sure I'm in tune here. I think I am. Okay, here we go. Here God's my desperate plea to see my love beside me. Sunk below the mortal sea, her anchor weighs upon me. Fasten a tether unto me, that she may rise to sail free. Don't look back. Close enough, the light we can see, my doubt betrays the better of me. A glance to the stern is all it would be. That anguished shade shall haunt me. Seas, winds of lee, but now the squalls upon us, we have found a ring, Don't look back. Don't look back. Don't look back. Don't look back. Don't look back.
That was amazing.
I hope everybody could hear that.
That was amazing.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing that. We really.
My pleasure.
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna probably play some Hades after this tonight, so I'm pretty excited about that. Okay. So just a couple more questions, and then I want to make sure that I open it up to the chat because I know there's a ton of questions coming from chat too. But going through Hades as a player, something that I really love most about the game is that Orpheus's songs are meant to be earned and unlocked as you progress through the story. Was that a game design feature from the beginning, or is that something that ended up growing organically as things were being produced?
Yeah, I would say it came about organically. The game was developed in early access, and a lot of stuff just sort of unfolded that way in a way that made sense, that for the community and for how we wanted to present the game and keep people engaged. And I think, Orpheus, the time it took to unlock Orpheus kind of varied throughout development and throughout the early access period. So I think eventually we made a contractor item where you could just sort of unlock him and buy him out of his punishment that he was in from Hades, sending him into Tartarus or whatever it was. But yeah, so there's a wide variance in sort of how people can begin to experience Orpheus for the first time. And originally he was in the game before Eurydice existed as a character that we were going to have. So now the sort of standard way I think a lot of players meet Orpheus is after they've already met Eurydice, which is sort of different than how it originally was when we were developing it. So yeah, it's all interesting, but we figured we wanted to have, in addition to the sort of cosmetic things for players to unlock to upgrade the house, we figured having pieces of music to listen to as a purchasable item made sense.
So good. And I really love that you learned so much more about the Orpheus and Eurydice relationship as you move on through the game, and that's felt so much through the music. So I felt like that was just a really brilliant addition to the game.
Awesome.
It really added another level to the playing experience, which was great.
Thank you so much.
So a couple more questions, and then we'll move over to chat. Hades has won so many awards, most recently picking up a ton of BAFTA Game Awards, including Best Game and Artistic Achievement. So the categories were stacked with some really amazing titles. Did you have any expectations when going into the BAFTAs or really any award show?
No, I mean, it's really incredible to just see us nominated in the categories, the sort of game of the year type categories is really bananas to me, just to see it's like our game, and then it's like Last of Us and Ghost of Tsushima, like these giant, huge productions. It's really nuts for me to see, and I don't think any of us still quite believe it. I mean, the DICE Awards and the BAFTAs and all that stuff has just been really overwhelming.
Well, congratulations on winning literally 1 gajillion awards. Congratulations on your gajillion award for Hades. It's obviously well deserved, not just from me, but from everybody in the chat and
I appreciate that,
all over the world. Okay, so last question from me, and then we'll go over to chat. And you've probably been asked this question a lot, so I apologize for being redundant, but this is just, I really want to know. Has there been talk of Hades 2?
Has there been talk of Hades 2? That's an interesting question.
The world wants to know.
I don't know. We are so wrapped up in just supporting Hades that it's really like we really don't know exactly what's happening next, and so we'll when we have something to talk about, we will absolutely talk about it. But until then,
So, chat, please expect an SF State exclusive to the announcement of Hades 2. Well, thanks so much. Those are all my questions, but we have some in chat that I really want to ask you before we move on to our next segment of Play It Forward. Which bands inspire you the most?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. The Beatles is sort of like a constant source of inspiration, just because I'm like amazed at how many incredible songs they wrote in like 6 years, or 8 years or whatever it was, the entire duration of their the height of their success. Um, they're amazing. I love They Might Be Giants a lot. They're kind of one of my favorite bands through the years, and they're kind of, it's weird. They're a band that they've been around making albums since the mid 80s, and they're still making interesting, cool, weird albums. And it's very strange. I can't think of another band where I like their new albums as much as their old albums from 35 years ago or whatever, 40 years ago. So that's cool. Who else? Gosh, I had a really good answer. Lewis Cole and the band Knower are really inspiring to me. Knower. Lewis Cole is this brilliant drummer and keyboard player.
Lewis Cole.
He's so great. Yeah, he's so wonderful. And his band Knower, it's so, what I love about it is that it's virtuosic, but really, really creative and fun. And I feel like sometimes some of that music where people have a lot of virtuosity, there's it's devoid of things that are fun or interesting to me sometimes. But his stuff is like, it's got chops in it, don't get me wrong, but it's cool. It's cool and it's funky and it's weird.
Lewis Cole is so cool, and I love Knower. His music videos are fantastic. Both music videos for Knower and Lewis Cole are fantastic.
Incredible, yeah.
His sense of style is insane. Like when he wears
the hamburger pants,
Zubas, and McDonald's employee ripped up shirts. Just I was just so excited. I feel like sometimes it was like I feel like I'm sending out links to like Lewis Cole and Knower music, so it's just awesome that you were as excited about Lewis Cole and Knower.
Yeah, I mean, Weird Part of the Night is my wake up alarm or whatever in the morning.
It's such a good song.
Yeah, and it's such a strange one to wake up to. I really like it. That's amazing. Yeah, Knower's amazing. I love Imogen Heap is really incredible and inspiring for me. Led Zeppelin, the first couple of Weezer albums were really influential for me. This band called Ozma, which is like a kind of like a less famous, better Weezer kind of from Southern California. Those guys are amazing. I think those are some. Jeff Buckley, Radiohead. I didn't say them. Yeah.
I was actually going to ask you this. I'm really glad somebody mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about the Zagreus fan art / Darren Korb memes? Because I almost pulled in Darren Korb memes, but I was like, let's not go the meme route.
Funny. I haven't really seen a lot of Darren Korb memes. I've seen a bunch of Zagreus fan art, and I think it's awesome. But that's funny. Yeah, I've seen have I seen Darren? I don't know. I don't remember.
I will.
I'm sure they're fun. Memes are fun.
I will send you a Darren Korb meme later.
Okay.
It's
all right.
Let's just say I went through the subreddit, the Hades subreddit. There's some Darren Korb memes in there.
Awesome.
Let me just check. Do we have any other questions?
What games are inspiring him?
Oh! Sorry,
What games are inspiring him?
Oh, yeah. What games are inspiring you? Great question,
Ah.
Brendan. Brendan wears a lot of hats, too. Like, if you're the composer, like sound director, voice actor, that's Brendan. That's Brendan.
Awesome. I mean, it's... let's see, what games are inspiring to me? So a game that has really been a comfort during the pandemic for me is this game Deep Rock Galactic, which is it's a game where it's like a multiplayer co-op game where you play as 4 dwarves. It's class-based, and you play as dwarves and you go on space mining missions, like space dwarves. And I've been playing it with a group of buddies, and it's really fun. I mean, we played a bunch of that over the course, the many months of the pandemic. That got us through quite a bit. That's cool, and it's not really my normal, a co-op shooter thing isn't really my normal speed, but I really dig that game. It's a lot of fun. I love XCOM Enemy Unknown, and like turn-based tactical type games. I just finished Gears Tactics last night, which was fun to play another kind of XCOM-y type game. I love those games so much. Into the Breach is probably my favorite one of those I've ever played. It's so delightful, and you feel like such a genius when you get good at it, even though you aren't necessarily, but it makes you feel really smart when you're good at that game, and that's a lot of fun. Rock Band, again, it's like one of those games where like I just keep coming back to it still. Like there's no other game that I've played regularly for like 14 years or whatever,
And I still watch those YouTube videos where people basically shred on the super expert levels that seem impossible.
Yes. Yeah.
Rock Band's still where it's at.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm impressed. Yeah, and I mostly play drums these days, but I still love all the other stuff, and the vocal harmonies are really fun.
Well, that is actually all the time that we have for this conversation. Darren, thank you so much again for your generosity and your time and playing live music for us, which is so exciting, especially because it's for such a good cause on behalf of the Hope Crisis Fund for students to make sure that they can graduate, even if they have financial emergencies. So if you have yet to give and are interested in doing so, chat, please follow the links that are floating around. And thank you to everybody for your questions. And again, thank you so much, Darren.